You want a printer that's not just a shiny piece of tech, but something that actually shows up on time, prints the colors you need, and lets you stay focused on the designs instead of fighting machinery. Most of us have stared at a spec sheet that promises 2x faster output and wondered whether the reality will end up being another expensive paperweight that eats ink and jams every few hours. That hesitation is real, especially when you're putting money into a setup that's supposed to run all day, every day, and you can't afford a surprise downtime that kills your order schedule. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks talking to a handful of small to mid-size screen printing shops that recently upgraded to DTF, watching their workflow, and reading the community threads where owners swap tips about the Procolored F13 Pro. What I've gathered is a picture that's a lot more nuanced than the marketing headline, and it's worth walking through before you decide to drop a six-figure investment into a single machine. First, let's put the printer in the context of a typical commercial apparel operation. In a busy shop, you're usually juggling multiple orders: a batch of custom tees for a local sports team, a run of branded hoodies for a corporate event, and maybe a quick dropship order for an online store. The bottleneck isn't the design work, it's the moment the print leaves the machine. That's where the F13 Pro's dual-head XP600 printheads claim to shine, promising roughly double the daily capacity of a single-head DTF unit. In practice, the extra head does shave about 30 to 45 seconds off each pass when you're printing a standard 12-12-inch design at 120 dpi. Over a 10-hour shift, that adds up to roughly an extra 100 to 130 shirts without changing the crew size. If your current setup can barely keep up with a 300-shirt order, the extra throughput can be the difference between pulling a profit and having to turn down work. The Al-Anon shaker oven is another piece that people love to talk about. It's designed to automate the curing step so you don't have to hand-feed each printed film into a separate heat press. In the shops I visited, the shaker sits right next to the printer and rolls the printed film through a 3-minute heat cycle with almost no operator intervention. The real benefit shows up when you have a steady stream of jobs. You load a stack of printed sheets, press a button, and the oven handles the rest while you're already prepping the next print. That cuts down the manual handling time dramatically, but there is a trade-off. The oven's capacity is limited to about 30 sheets per batch. If you try to push a larger batch, you end up waiting for the next cycle, which can create a mini queue. So the machine truly shines in a continuous flow environment where you keep the feed steady. But if your shop operates on a true Makituda model with sporadic runs, you might not harvest the full time savings. Now, who should actually consider buying this setup? The sweet spot is a shop that already prints at least a few hundred DTF shirts per week and is looking to scale without hiring an extra operator. If you have a dedicated space for a 6-foot printer and a 3-foot shaker, and you can afford the initial outlay, the F13 Pro sits in the upper mid-price range for DTF gear. The machine can become the workhorse that lets you accept larger contracts. It also works well for boutique brands that want to keep everything in-house. You can prototype a design, see the color saturation immediately, and move straight to a production run without outsourcing to a third-party printer. On the flip side, if you're a hobbyist or a small studio that prints under 50 shirts a week, the F13 Pro will likely feel overkill. The footprint alone can dominate a modest workspace, and the learning curve for managing 2 printheads and the shaker's timing can be steep if you don't already have a workflow that's tuned for high volume. In those cases, a single-head DTF printer paired with a manual heat press is more cost-effective and offers enough flexibility without the overhead of maintaining a larger machine. Let's talk practical strengths. Color saturation is a big selling point. The 12-channel Pro configuration means the printer can lay down a wider gamut of inks than a typical 8-channel unit, which translates into richer reds and deeper blues on cotton fabrics. In the real world, that showed up when a local sports team ordered jerseys with a deep navy stripe. The color didn't look washed out under daylight, something that's been a complaint with cheaper DTF setups. The professional Siphon Gen 2 system, rated for a 50,000-inch stable run, also means you won't be repriming the ink lines every few hundred prints. In the shops I observed, the ink flow stayed consistent for weeks, and the only maintenance required was a routine cleaning of the printhead nozzles, something you already do with any industrial printer. A practical weakness is